Hi, today we'll be going over the LMX theory in the banking industry to enhance employee engagement. An overview of what we'll be discussing today is the hypothesis, the LMX theory defined, its supporting studies, some strengths and weaknesses of the LMX theory, some implications, why does this even matter, as well as some recommendations. The hypothesis that we'll be discussing today is the banking industry should use the LMX theory to enhance employee engagement. The LMX theory, as defined, is a dyadic relationship. This really goes into looking at the leader as well as the follower and their individual relationship between each other. The LMX theory was conceived in the 1970s. Before the LMX theory, it was reviewed and stated that all leaders really treated the followers the same way. With so many new events and information that's coming out decades later, it's clear that leaders did not treat all of the followers the exact same. There was an in-group and an out-group. Somebody did feel left out, whether that be for gender, race, bias, whether it was conscious or unconscious. There are several reasons why there could be an in-group and an out-group. The LMX theory really challenged that, and it started in the 70s. It really delved into how leaders did treat the different followers in the groups that they were themselves participating in dividing. There are three phases that the LMX theory does encompass. The first is the stranger phase. The stranger phase is where new members come into an organization and they're brand new. They are really rules bound. It's a low quality member exchange between the leader as well as the follower. And it's the dyadic relationship, again, is very just simplistic at this nature because the leader is really evaluating what the follower is capable of doing. Some qualities that are really engaging and favored from the leader is to be extroverted, to be enthusiastic, as well as to have a high participation rate within the stranger phase. The follower has some favored qualities as well. They really are favored for being agreeable, trusting, and having a very pleasant nature within this phase. This will help the follower gain access to the in-group rather than going into the out-group. The next phase is the acquaintance phase. This phase is really where the leader is testing and evaluating their followers. They're giving them new tasks to handle, they're building trust, and in this phase, the leader and the followers end up subdividing into whether it be a natural or unnatural flow, thus leading them into an in-group or an out-group. The subdivision of the groups is not solely based on the leader or just the follower, but it's rather a back and forth perception between the both of them. It's no one person's fault, but it's several different occasions, events, interactions, possibly misunderstandings that can lead to whether it's an in-group or an out-group, as well as some biases that the leader might, again, consciously or unconsciously have at that time. The mature phase, or phase 3, is where the subdivided groups are already split. The in-group has a high-quality exchange, and they continue to build trust and respect, while the out-group is further withdrawing themselves. These two subdivided groups of followers are categorized as the in-group and the out-group. The in-group are seen as more dependable, more communicative, they're highly involved and highly engaged. This does lead to higher member exchanges, whereas the out-group are not seen as responsive. They normally produce lower productivity or quality, not as quality product, and they aren't as engaged because they receive no special treatment. They feel less compelled to go above and beyond because there is little to no positive feedback. Now, the outgroup, they can be treated fairly, and the leader can be kind to them, but there's no special favor. The leader doesn't go out of their way for the outgroup. It's just a very simple exchange. This in the outgroup does tell us, thus the LMX theory, that the outgroup is less engaged overall. Some supporting studies for this. One is from Germany. This is from Guterman, Lehmann, Bohr, and Born-Vilpal. They surveyed 511 service employees within 88 individual teams. The LMX quality boosted higher employee engagement. It also reduced employee turnover. It enhanced the work engagement at the managerial level, which fostered fruitful organizational engagement, whereas the low-quality LMX resulted in simplistic economic change. So what that means is the higher quality exchanges, or the in-group, really prospered, and you can see within the in-group a faster career progression, whereas the lower quality LMX resulted in just a simple someone coming into work, them getting a paycheck, just producing just the minimum and leaving. This does concern because it's not going into work, being passionate about what you're doing, and being fulfilled for a good quality work-life balance. Overall, the high-quality LMX did result in increased loyalty, trust, and increased commitment. This LMX was enhanced by mediation. The study really stated that mediation was the key within the LMX theory for the service level within Germany. Another study that was reviewed also in Germany by Lloyd, Vera, and Vilpal, which is a limitation for both of these studies since they were both done in Germany. One recommendation for these studies is to increase the studies in many different countries, as well as the United States. There are many European and Asian countries that continue with these studies, but simply the United States doesn't have very many. And part of that is the cultural background and the perceived dedication for the LMX theory that are already being utilized within the American organizations, as well as the ability to approach different titled workers within an organization more readily, whereas some older cultures don't readily accept that. This specific study did review and survey various backgrounds of professionals in Germany. I like this study in comparison to the other because it does take a look at really the diverse amount of backgrounds from the service industry to the professional industry, and you have both of that within the banking sector. You have the service, transactional, key tellers within the banking sector, but then also you do have professionals such as management, upper management, CEOs, as well as financial advisors that all are affecting and have different roles within the banking sector. This specific study looked at the empathetic listening within the LMX theory, and it did state that it did lead to a more effective leadership and higher quality relationship. The employees felt more accepted and more cared for when the leader did use empathetic listening. The employees also had a higher job satisfaction rate. They felt heard and they were more engaged because they felt accepted. Anytime that we feel accepted, whether it's from a friendship, a family member, a coworker, we are more readily to go above and beyond for those individuals rather than people that we do not feel accepted by. Some strengths of the LMX theory can be utilized as a prescriptive nature. So what that means is when a leader is evaluating the different relationships of their in-group as well as the out-group, this can lead them to being able to look at the behaviors that will further enhance their ability to move the followers from the out-group over to the in-group. This also does help focus themselves on communication, whereas in the previous two studies, they really looked at mediation, which is a form of communication, and also empathetic listening. Both of those do need an effective communication style that is readily available and enhanced within the LMX theory. Also within the banking sector, it is better whenever you are able to communicate effectively with your clients, members, and the followers to more readily help them with their money. Money is very personal to many people, and that's why the stock market goes up and down, and part of the reason why it does go up and down because of the emotional appeal that it does have within all sectors, all walks of life, no matter your earned income level. And the LMX theory does provide those positive outcomes for not only the banking sector, but it does have a ripple and trickle down effect for other members and followers out there. Some weaknesses that the LMX theory has, one is called the dark side, and this is where the in-group is more highly favored. Many times we don't want to be perceived that we treat one group better than another group, or a race, or a gender, or someone with different education backgrounds or culture backgrounds or different beliefs, but on some innate level we do. And that's what the LMX theories, one of their criticisms is that we naturally favor some more than others. So another theory that is another LMX criticism is that this not only affects the workplace environment, but it also affects the organizational effectiveness and mental psyche, which can further the divide between the leader as well as the follower. The dark side can be helped through mediation. So the dark side can be mitigated through, again, that enhanced communication levels and being able to readily hear empathetically and communicate back and forth so the employee does feel accepted. There was a study in India where they surveyed 1,193 employees across varying industries. They did find that there was an abuse of power in India. This did lessen through the LMX theory that it did lessen the abuse of power if they used mediation. And they did document through the survey that the psyche of the followers were helped and mitigated through that mediation and empathetic listening. Now, India does have a different cultural norm than the United States. In Indian culture, a title is more important and should not be challenged even if a follower disagrees, which then can lead itself to a higher likelihood of falling to the dark side. The LMX theory does not provide a one-size-fits-all for all situations that allows followers to move from the out-group to the in-group. This is a large criticism of the LMX theory. This can prove tough for new managers from outside of the organization that are just learning the corporate culture. This criticism that the LMX theory does not take into full consideration of different cultural norms is readily talked about within the weaknesses of the LMX theory. This is because many cultures have different beliefs and standards, protocols that they are affected by on a day-to-day basis. This is important to take note of because, again, with money, cultures view money in many different ways. They also view the titles in many different ways, management in many different ways, and we need to be cognitive of this whenever we are really delving into the United States as a cultural melting pot of these different cultural norms. Some implications of the LMX theory, or why does this even matter in the 21st century workforce? It matters because higher in-group participation leads to an overall stronger organization. The LMX theory gives increased communication. It has a higher quality work life. It has a higher emotional intelligence rate, lower employee turnover, higher commitment levels, a higher degree of mutual trust. It gives a higher level of respect, a higher emotional intelligence levels for all levels of the organization, not only the follower but also the leader. In many other theories, they're focusing on just the leader, whereas the LMX theory focuses on that dyadic relationship between the follower as well as the leader. This improved LMX theory enhancement leads also to better job attitudes, more attention and support for the in-group, as well as a higher job satisfaction. Again, the LMX theory can be applied at all levels at any organization, which makes it great for any workplace. It matters because the banking sector affects the economic growth of GDP. The banking sector, whenever it's efficient and it's profitable, it does help employee engagement. When employees of the banking sector are more engaged, this helps the profitability, efficiency, and effectiveness of those companies, which then in turn helps the overall economy. The use of the LMX theory in the banking sector can improve the quality of work life for employees as well as leaders. If you're happier at your job, then you're going to have a happier interaction not only with your clients and members, but also just on a day-to-day life basis for normal routines as well. This employee engagement that is improved and is in a positive nature can be passed on immediately, enhancing many different areas. Some recommendations that I had for this hypothesis to be able to implement it was the use of the LMX 7. The LMX 7 is a questionnaire made up of 7 different questions that is able to look at the quality of the relationship between the leader as well as the follower, being able to coach up as well as down, and evaluating that quality of relationship. Another recommendation is to include shadow questionnaires, which this takes a look at the perspective of the perception that leaders as well as followers have, not only in their department but within other departments as well. These questionnaires and internal reflections really should be a minimum of 6 months when in the implementation phase. 3 months is the normal time to have a habit set in. When there is a new habit that's set in, you want to make sure that there is a bigger runway for that implementation phase to really be able to give it a chance to survey it and make sure that the leader is implementing those behaviors to move the members and followers from the out group to the in group. Another recommendation is to use the perspective nature of the LMX theory to help coach up as well as down for the enhanced employee engagement. There are middle management, and they have managers, and so on and so forth. CEOs have board members, and if we can all take a look internally at the quality of the relationships that we have, not only for the in-group but also the out-group. Leaders should not assume and categorize too quickly. Again, looking at their biases, they really should be aware of them and where they might come from. Leaders should provide a positive feedback environment to the out-group so they feel more readily able to move from the out-group to the in-group to help the overall company and organization move towards the mission of the overall employee engagement. Thank you so much for spending some time with me to look at the engagement of employees within the banking sector utilizing the LMX theory. Have a great rest of the day.